You know what? I don't have that. Oh well, whatever. Hey guys, I'm Ray, and we are streaming Blacksmithing. So, today we are continuing on the cross-paint hammer. I did a little bit of like rejiggering with the press today. I was able to kind of secure the bottom die on this guy pretty well, so hopefully it won't jiggle around like it did on Friday. This weekend has been rather interesting. On Saturday, we went van shopping, and hey, evening sandwich. Oh, I don't see 2K. You know what? I forgot. Wow, I forgot to do 2K. I'm sorry, guys. I did not see it when I did the stream thingy, or when I went to my stream thing. So I will have to figure out where it went. I apologize. I did promise 2K and it's not 2K. I'm sorry, guys. I could probably start it up again, but I want to make sure that I don't know how long it's going to take me to set that up. So I'm really sorry about that. Yeah. I mean, I came out here like extra early and, I should have done that, but I totally forgot. So I apologize. I will definitely attempt to do 2K on Wednesday. Let me leave myself a note, maybe. Let's leave myself a note. In the Discord. I'll leave myself a note in the Discord. That way. What am I gonna do? I'll just put it here. Okay, there we go. I have left myself a note in the Discord. Hopefully, I will remember to do that. I apologize. Like I said, I don't know. My brain was a little bit crazy today. So yeah, this weekend was, it was also a little bit stressful and crazy. On Saturday, we looked at a whole bunch of vans. We looked at, how many did we look at? 1, 2, 3, 4 vans, almost, or I think 5 vans. And we ended up contracting to purchase one of the vans. So I don't get, or it's not currently in the driveway, but there's a couple things that the dealership wanted to repair, and so we'll pick that up on Wednesday. It is a Chevy Express. And so it's kind of a little on the short side, so you can't like stand up in it, but it's long enough to have like a fixed bed and some like desk space and a lot of storage. So we're gonna build that out so that we can have a travel blacksmith van when we go to conferences and stuff like that. Welcome in, Corwin. You say, how are you? I'm pretty good. I'm a little tired, but overall, I'm excellent. So yeah, and then yesterday we got groceries, but other than that, we just kind of relaxed most of the day. Um, it's always stressful dealing with car dealers here in the United States. They always want to rip you off. So at least the one that we hooked up with was not like trying to get us to spend more than our budget. So that's always good. It's one of those things where you got to be really careful that you stay on your target budget. So we've got the new laptop, we've got the new van coming on Wednesday, and we are pretty set. And so I'm really excited about all of the new additions to Ray's Smithy. And yeah, so we are going to stop for a little while, getting new additions for the moment, save some pennies, and work towards our next edition. Congratulations! Yes, I'm really excited. Like I said, the van is a Chevy Express. It's like a cargo van. It is a 2018 with 110,000 miles on it, I think. And so it was a relatively decent deal. And we're pretty excited about building it out and taking it up to Ohio in September. So we've got a month and a half ish to build it out and get it ready for that trip. So I'm super excited about that. So I started the forge early today to kind of get to the point where I could start forging earlier today. And so it looks like we're almost ready already. So we've got an ad incoming, and after that, I think I have a couple other things that I want to cover as far as admin or administrative type stuff. And then after that, we'll start forging. So exciting! All of this new and incredible things happening, and it's all thanks to you guys. Without your viewership and your support, I would not be able to continue doing this. So thank you all so much. All right. I think we are now in an ad. So I guess we're going to kind of wait out the ad. I found out this weekend I'd be doing my first public blacksmithing in a couple of weeks. Ooh, that's exciting. I always love doing like blacksmithing demos for people. It is a lot harder than doing the stream, I feel like, because I've got the camera in between me and you guys, so I don't actually have to look you guys in the eye. But I still do I do actually enjoy doing demos for like live audiences as well. I used to do a lot of them for the Society for Creative Anachronism. And so a couple of them I did. I went to a school for one of them, and we set up the blacksmithing area, and the kids were so excited to see that. Made a couple of hooks and leaves and things like that. And throughout the day, there was just a bunch of kids that they would, different classes would come through, and they'd ask all kinds of questions and stuff. It was really fun. That's kind of part of what inspired me to start streaming here on Twitch, because I enjoyed answering all of the questions and demoing. So demoing for you guys is a little bit easier and just about as much fun. It's a little bit more fun actually, because the little kids they have some good questions, but I get to discuss things with you guys in a little bit more depth, and I think that is so much fun. So, Twitch allows me to do sales for gifted subs, and I enabled one today for 10 hours in order to kind of celebrate the new laptop and all of the good things that have been happening recently. So 35% off gift subs or whatever, I think. So there's that. Take it or leave it. I mean, I don't know how well it or how good that is or not. So, I just figured I'd do it, and we'll see how it goes. So, um, regardless, I wanted to thank you guys. You guys are incredible. Welcome in, Pyrex. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. We are going to be continuing working on our cross-beam hammer today. We are going to spend a little bit more time fullering this piece of steel. So I've got the two fullering dies. They're really lined up. I actually lifted the bottom die from the second peg up to the top peg. And I took the hammer cold and I kind of compared it so I realized that I didn't need to have it lower, or like the bottom die, I didn't need to lower it. It just gives me, or it just forces me to have the press lower, and that takes more time. Maybe if I could think right. Good idea, less travel time for the press. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. There is less travel time for the press. Thank you for, putting that in a more legible word. So yeah, and so I also line these guys up so they meet a little bit easier. Before I had them, they were kind of, offset a little bit. So I did my best to kind of bring them together so that they'll actually clamp at the same point. And because that's going to be essential. We want the fuller to be all the way around. So hopefully I've eyeballed it correctly, and we can make this happen. So it looks like we are just about ready to do the first heat. So I'm going to turn on the cameras real fast, and we're going to see how this goes. There's that camera, and this camera. Oh, also, we are under a heat advisory today, so there is a chance that I may have to end the stream a little bit early if it gets too hot. Last I knew, it was in the 80s, and that's not too bad. It's when it gets really high into the 90s. It just gets ridiculously hot in here. Hopefully, it doesn't get that high, and we should be good to go. Those would be Fahrenheit temperatures. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna put you guys over there. Yep, that works. Much more better. All right, so it's starting to look like the dies are a little bit off today. That bottom one is a little bit further back than the top one is. So I'm going to put this guy back in the heat. We're going to attempt to adjust that, and we'll work on it for our next heat. I want them to be as even as possible. Overall, that actually works pretty well, though. All right. So this needs to go forward. Is the compressor off? It's quieter than usual. Yeah, the new setup has noise suppression on, and it makes it. I looked it up, and OBS has a plugin for noise suppression, but I don't have that plugin, so I'm not entirely sure what it is. It might just be the way that the new laptop kind of interprets the noise suppression from the microphone. I will look more into it as I have the time to. But we did have, a couple things that we were doing this weekend. And then I guess on Sunday I kind of forgot. I am sorry. I will try to get that taken care of. Sweet. Okay. Yeah, so I need to push this guy back just a hair, not too much, but a little bit. I have this guy right here. So I've got a square right here that I'm playing with. And this should allow me to line it up pretty nicely. All right, that it should be good there. Once more. There we go. Now if I tighten this guy, it should theoretically work a little bit better. And it's moving on me because of this party. All right, that's good. Just need to tighten it. All right, that should be good right there. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I had that taken care of. And when I used the press, it just wasn't working quite right. The interpretation part does not sound very plausible, to be honest. I don't know. My friends on Discord need to discover noise suppression. Yeah. Like I said, I don't really know. It could be the laptop itself has a noise suppression. I know I don't have any noise suppression plugins on OBS, so I will look up more about it, but I haven't, I kind of forgot about it. I'm sorry. With all the stress from going in to the dealerships to kind of look at used cars and the van, I don't know. It slipped my mind. I apologize. I know I promised that I would do it, but I didn't. I'm sorry. I did, however, promise you guys that I would update the end title screen, and I was able to do that. So that is updated. I've got all of the current subscribers as well as the KoFi donors on the end screen today. No need to apologize. Thanks, Corwin. I get really distracted at times with all of the other stuff that I do. And yeah, I guess I just was like, oh, the laptop was beautiful. It worked beautifully for Friday's stream, and then I forgot that there was a couple things I wanted to tweak about it. I did make sure that the microphone and the receiver were fully charged. because I know we had that as an issue on Friday. So there's that. Let's see. What else is going on? So they just put out the Quad State brochure that has all of the like presenters and stuff going or for the Quad State Conference. So you guys can take a look at that if you guys are interested. I will be spending the next couple of days trying to email some people so that we can line up some interviews and some talking, so that we've got something fun to show. And then also we've got a whole bunch of Amazon ordering to do for the van and a little bit of Harbor Freight, and we will see how that goes. So on Wednesday we actually get to see the van, or we get to pick it up from the dealership. So maybe on Friday, I might be able to kind of give you guys a really quick tour of it. I think that might be fun. It's just basically it's an empty van right now, but there's the before and the after, and I think before is kind of interesting to see. That'd be cool. Yeah. You can kind of see what I have to work with. It's really empty. It's kind of interesting though, because they actually did a spray in bed liner inside of the cab, or not the cab, the back of the van. And when I looked at it, I was like, I'll bet you there's like rust spots in there, and they were kind of trying to cover that up. There is actually a hole in the floor of the back area, and we'll have to weld that up, and so maybe I can do like a short about that or something. We'll see what we can do. I think it should be really interesting and fun to kind of build out this van. It's going to be kind of a no-build build kind of thing, at first at least, so just so that we can make sure that we don't put too much money in and then find out that we did something wrong or that we didn't like. I really want to be able to kind of move things around and make sure that the layout works for what we want to do. We've got to fit a whole bunch of gear in there, and then also like a little bit of living space. Kind of like a tent, when you go camping. All right. So we've got plenty of heat, so let's do another. We'll pull the steel out again. Hopefully everything is good mechanically. So they're doing like a 12-point inspection on it, and it's currently in the shop. And if they told us that if anything was wrong with it that they found, that they would they'd fix it for us for free while they are fixing the back tail light. It fell off when the guy was bringing it to us. And that's not cool, but it'll be all right. I guess it will. I wanted to hold that direction. Bring this one down. I think I need some more. I gotta resituate this guy. Alright. So like I said, this is my very first one, so you can kind of see where the fuller is starting to form right there, but it's a little bit off. So I think I want to fix that as best as possible while it's still relatively shallow. This one's a little bit too far back, so I think I might actually put it in this direction. It should, in theory, bring this one back further. We'll straighten that out as best as we can by maybe flipping it over. We haven't done much in the way of work yet, so we can still correct a lot of that. So yeah, I'm really hoping that nothing mechanical is wrong with this van because, you know, I like to get it sooner than later. All right, in theory that should work. Theoretically, but you know, theoretically it's theoretically. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, I thought I had gotten that, but because I thought I had gotten it really nice and in there, but because I was adjusting it, the bottom die moved a little bit. So I hope that I've gotten it secured in there. We shall see. Let's see. What else do we have? So I have decided, I've decided that I'm going to go to the Abana conference. That one's going to be a really long time from now. It is November of 2026, so it'll be a while before that one. But that one is in Arkansas. I don't think I've ever been to Arkansas, so it should be a fun and interesting time. So Abana is the Artists Blacksmith Association of North America, and they are like the overarching blacksmith guild in North America, the United States. They also are affiliated with European blacksmith guilds as well as the Australian blacksmith guild. So they've got people from all across the world who are going to be demonstrating at that conference. They already have two demonstrators who have been announced, and I'm really looking forward to checking that out. Let's see what else is going on in the world of Wraithsmithy. So I had originally intended on filming a new video on Sunday, but I was really exhausted, so I did not get around to doing it. So I will be doing that probably slowly throughout the week. That'll be the raised part of the Wraithsmithy sign. So I'm really looking forward to getting that one up. I keep promising that I'm gonna do that, and it's been months, so I need to actually settle down and do that. So I'm hoping that I can get it done this week. It is a little bit of extra effort. So basically, the design is a solid rectangle of sheet steel, and then I am going to cut out the letters that say raise. And then we're going to affix LEDs on the back so that it shines bright colors. And so the hard part about that is that in order to cut an interior negative space in a piece of sheet steel, you actually have to drill a bunch of holes so that it like kind of keyholes so that you can start the I guess I'm going to use a jigsaw. So I need to cut some holes to start that jigsaw off. And I only have a hand drill, so I really haven't been looking forward to that. That's actually a lot of work because you kind of have to like hold the drill down, and it's kind of weird that it does take as much effort as it does. But I will get it. Even if it takes a few days to do all of the holes, we'll get them. All right, let's do some more forging. All righty. Well, I think that's actually a much better placement for that. I'm gonna see what I can do. There we go, much better. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna flip this 90 degrees and work on this side for our next piece. You guys can kind of see that we've got a little bit of a fuller there, and so I want to work on this flat. So we'll do that next. Need holes. Another reason to get an oxyacetylene torch. Yeah, like I said, I have an oxyacetylene torch. But I want the piece of sheet steel that I'm using, or I would like to use, has a chrome coating on it. And the bad part about a chrome coating is that just like a zinc coating, they both create noxious gas when heated. So I need to do all of this work cold. So I need drills, or so I need to do to drill out the keyholes for the interior spaces, and we're going to use a jigsaw. I've got a metal bit for it, so it should work beautifully. It'll also be a lot cleaner than if I were to use oxyacetylene, because oxyacetylene, how it works is that it melts the metal and then it blows all of that slag away. So you kind of get these like drips on the inside, and it's harder to clean that up than if I were to just use a jigsaw. Because this is really thin sheet, it shouldn't be an issue using the jigsaw and a drill. I did actually find a little bit of money here and there, and I probably will be getting a drill press, like a smaller one. And so that should also take a lot of that stress away. But I mean, if I wasn't using a chrome plated piece of steel, I mean, oxyacetylene would be a great option for that. You would just have a little bit of extra cleanup work to do. Would a vinegar bath dissolve the chrome like it does zinc? That I don't know. I imagine that it would, because vinegar as an acid, it will eat away at most materials. And I do know that I have a little bit of rust on the back side of that sheet steel. So I think I could. But part of the reason that I want to use this chrome sheet is because it will reflect all of the LED light that I place on the back of it. So it's kind of gonna create a brighter light, and that is the goal. I bought this sheet steel for a different project that I did. I was asked to make a sheet steel cross that was like the letter, or like the word Jesus was formed in the shape of a cross. And I thought it turned out pretty good, but I did not realize that it was so, or that I couldn't use an oxyacetylene torch with it. And I did actually end up inhaling some noxious gas. So you definitely don't want to do that, especially with chrome that does not leave your system. So I have to be exceptionally careful using or like working with chrome from here on. So if I work cold, then I only have to worry about the dust. And since I have a really nice dust mask, I won't have to worry about that at all. And yes, a water jet would work beautifully for that project. One true Mexican or Maxon says, would a water jet machine work? Yeah, it should work. And I believe, oh, we're in ad time. So if I'm not sure who is seeing and who's not. So if you guys are not able to see that answer, or I guess hear that answer, let me know so I can repeat it. Uh, there it is. There's like a glare on the screen. My old laptop had kind of like a more matted screen, and this one has a really shiny screen. So there's like a window glare that I'm getting. So I can't always see where the ad time is. But yes, a water jet would actually work beautifully to cut this piece. I don't actually have access to a water jet right now. There is a makerspace that is in St. Louis but I'm not sure if they have a water jet. They do have a subscription though, so you have to pay monthly to join their makerspace. So I haven't gone over there yet to see what they have. But yeah, a water jet should work beautifully. I mean, it's not heat. It's really the heat that will cause the noxious gas from both chrome and zinc. Water jet are cool. I don't really know how to use them very well because I've never actually used them. They are also oftentimes a CNC piece of equipment, and I'm not amazingly good with 3D modeling programs and CNC stuff. So it's something that I really enjoy like learning. Um, Because I mean, there's like the free 3D program Blender. You can actually use that a lot of times for, your CNC work. So I do have a copy of Blender on my desktop and also on this laptop, so I can kind of play around with it. But I've never really like had a large amount of use for it as of yet. So I mean, maybe in the future. I would like to learn it. I'm just not amazingly good with it right now. All right. Let's see. What else is going on? Like I said, it's kind of a little bit on the warm side today outside, and because it's hot outside, it tends to get hot in here. It is a little bit worse though because we had thunderstorms all night long, and so it's ridiculously humid too. I don't mind heat nearly as bad as humidity. The humidity just makes it worse. So much worse. All right, we're gonna do another heat. I want to flip the piece 90 degrees, see if I can't kind of beat the two fullers. And because I want to separate the face of that hammer from the handle area, the hammer eye hole, I guess, all the way around. It's kind of more of a aesthetic thing, but I'm still kind of interested in seeing how it would work and how I can do it. So yeah. All right. 90 degrees. We're gonna rest that right there. Turn this on. Okay. So I'm having a little bit of trouble. I realized that there is a I have under here, I have a piece of angle iron that I use to kind of hold the die in place. And I've realized that that is actually pushing the piece of steel offline. So I need to grab another clamp. We're going to put the steel back in the fire. And I'm going to try and address that. I have a whole bunch of clamps inside this room here. And let's see if I can find one that might work. A C clamp is best. I don't know that I have another one. I don't immediately see one. PPC, C clamp. All right. Where are you? C clamp. I had a big old C clamp at one point. I have a different clamp, but I'm afraid of using that one because it's kind of got rubber, like little rubber tips on it. And I'm afraid that that might actually melt. And then I have these clamps right here. These guys are a little bit too big. I could probably use this guy. Let's try that. Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do the other direction, probably. So we are learning as we go today. All right, so that looks like it will work, which means I can put this guy right off. And my clamp from the top. All right, is being done. I'll move that down there. Sometimes I make things really hard on myself. And that's what I think I've done this time. Definitely think I've done that. Made things harder on myself. All right. All right, that should work. Maybe. Hopefully. And they also have plastic on them. Yes. Welding is always the answer. And an angle grinder is the eraser. You guys are right on that. Welding would be a great answer for this if I didn't want to be able to change the dies all the time, unfortunately. I thought I had thought this through, and apparently I didn't. So, I don't know. This happens to me every time I make a new die. I kind of have to, like, my ideas are often half baked, so I kind of have to problem solve as I go. And part of that is, that's process. It's what I like about blacksmithing. I have to get really creative. But yeah, hopefully this functions. If not, then I guess I'll have to find a different solution. I know for a fact that I have more C-clamps than just those two that are already on there. I just don't know where I put them. So I don't know. All right. Let's see about this. Resetting my clips. All right, let me look on this back table here because sometimes I leave my clamps back here. I don't actually see any though, unfortunately. All right, definitely something to make note of. I don't know where any of my C-clamps are, so that means I need more C-clamps. They aren't over there either. They might have actually ended up in the in the wood shop. I have a separate wood shop, which is kind of unusual, but yeah, I do. I have a separate wood shop where I have like a chop saw and some other woodworking tools. So it might have disappeared down there. I try to have two sets of tools for that reason. You know, you get the set of tools for the hot shop and then the set of tools for the woodworking shop, but sometimes they intermingle and mix. C-clamps and 10 millimeter socket heads are off with all the left socks from my dryer. And yes, definitely. And all my left welding gloves, you know. But a lot of times those just burn up, like literally. So, you know, I can always find a right welding glove, but oftentimes I lose my left. I don't know. Interns are cheaper than welding gloves. Ooh, that sounds painful. I mean, you got to be nice to your interns. Definitely got to be nice to your interns. All right, let's try this again. We'll see if this works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe I'm just crazy. I mean, I know I definitely know I'm crazy. I mean, why else would I be a blacksmith? When I could be something, you know, much more stable, like a welder. All right, so that actually seems a lot better overall. See, with that, we got a nice puller in there. So we're going to start flipping this all around so that we can kind of make sure that it is even on all four sides. Actually starting to work for one. Yay! It's starting to look like a hammer now. All right, I'm going to put this guy back in the fire. We're going to see what we can do. Much better. Welcome in, Pink. Welcome in. You are just in time to see me, you know, like actually sort of kind of makeshift figure out how I'm going to do this next step. So the beauty of this whole project, this hammer project, is that it is the first time that I am doing any of these steps, right? So that means that I don't really know what I'm doing. And so every step of the way, I kind of have to problem solve and figure it out from scratch almost. But overall, I think I'm doing all right. I don't think that I have hit a catastrophic failure yet. Eventually, I'm expecting one because, you know, I have to be a little bit defeated so I don't get too disappointed. But overall, I think I'm doing all right for having never done a hammer before. How will the face of the hammer be made flat? Moving the metal or grinding? So part of it will be hammering on the face of the anvil a little bit, and part of it will be grinding. So It's a little bit of A, a little bit of B. So we will be using the hammer and the anvil to kind of flatten it out as much as possible on, while it's hot. And then what we can't make happen with, hot forming, we will go back with a grinder. Even if this were the flattest forged piece of steel that ever, I would still have to go back on it with a grinder to kind of dress all of the forge scale and, make it nice and shiny. So, I mean, we're going to do our best and see what happens, and we'll grind the rest. Yeah. So hopefully we can make it flat-ish and have a lot less to grind later. The goal is to reduce the amount of grinding that we've got to do. But like I said, this is the very first time that I have made a hammer, and I'm kind of doing it by the seat of my pants. So, we'll see. I am very much expecting to make a hammer-shaped object, but I don't actually expect it to be very well balanced, if that makes any sense. So balance is very important in a hammer. So this guy right here is very front heavy. I'm very used to using it because I've used it for many, many years, but it's not amazingly well balanced. There is a lot more material in the front than in the back, and I am definitely expecting something similar to happen to this hammer that we're making today. This hammer right here is incredibly well balanced. Both ends of this hammer are relatively close in mass. So you've got almost the exact same amount of material on both ends of this. This makes it a lot more balanced, a lot more easy to use. When I hammer this way, it's not too bad, but when I'm trying to spread material and hammer this way, it takes a lot more effort to pick up this hammer. If it doesn't bounce as high as I need it to, than it does this hammer. Whoops, wrong hammer. My wife heats it when I get on grinder. Yeah, I imagine. I can imagine why she might not like that. All right. We're going to do another heat. I'm going to try and start rotating this piece. We are going to continue to kind of bring in those half round areas to kind of separate the handle from the face. Switch to this direction now. I'm starting to get a lot of heat transfer from the face onto my arm. So I'm going to have to point those here in a moment. And I'm going to grab some more feet. So we're starting to get a decent amount of fullering going there. That's pretty much what I want to see. Increase the depth of that a bit. And then we're going to start working on the faces, because they're starting to get a little bit more on the diagonal side, and I want them to be parallel. Right. Definitely want them to be parallel. So I think it's actually starting to work the way I want it to. I think I need a lot of finessing. But overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I need a lot more depth on those fullers, like I said before. And when I'm happy with them, we'll start working on that face of the hammer. I kind of want to, okay. So right now I have a very square hammer, like a very square face to this hammer. There's some corners, and I definitely do not want that sharp of corners on the face of the hammer. So I think when we're done with this fullering, we're kind of gonna turn the square into an octagon. So we will actually probably do a little bit of fullering on the corners, if I can manage to open the jaws of the press enough to do that. If not, I will probably do it by hand hammering. We'll see how this goes. It's a fun project either way. I really enjoy kind of figuring this stuff out. And I have every intention of taking it to quad state with me and having the guys there take a look at it and kind of tell me, what I did right, what I did wrong, and kind of, help me figure out any problems and snags that I've had. Do you already have a handle made for the hammer? So I have a piece of round tubing that I have welded onto a piece of 1/2-inch square stock. And there's like this little T. It's like there's a knob on the press, and there's a little bit of stock that like kind of sticks out. And so if you can see these little like grooves in here, that these or like the little T gets caught on these grooves, and I've created a handle this way. And a lot of people ask me why I don't just weld this on there. And the reason I don't is because the little piece of round stock that goes through this little piece or this little knob has a tendency to bend over time. And then I need to cut it off and install a new one. And that would be a lot harder if I welded this guy on there. So yes, it's less convenient to use this little key that I've made over welding it on. But in the long run, I feel like I can use it for longer if I don't weld it on. Oh, as far as the hammer, I didn't read that correctly. Do you have a handle for the hammer? No, I don't actually have a handle made for the hammer. Where did I put this? I have a couple pieces of wood They're just like pieces of square 2x2. I don't remember what I did with them. They're around here though. But yeah, they're just like pieces of 2x2. They're about yay big. They are oak 2x2. I would prefer to find some hickory. So I might actually take a trip up to the sawmill and see if I can't find some hickory handle material. Or, you know, but if not, I have these pieces of oak 2x2 and we'll use that. At least I think. Maybe they're not. They might actually just be pine. Now that I think about it. I'll have to figure out something else to use. I'll use a piece of oak or hickory, whatever I can find. I thought I brought them in here. I don't know what I did with them. Birchwood is great for tool handles. Welcome in, Aragorn 1939. Welcome in. Absorb shock better than hickory, oak, etc. Definitely not fiberglass. I have missed my activity feed. There we go. But yeah, I would definitely not use a fiberglass handle. And the reason that I would not use a fiberglass handle is because fiberglass handles, when you are using a forging or when you're forging, have a tendency to melt. This hammer right here has a fiberglass handle, and it had 3 other hammers that were just like this one. And I used this guy to make a hand out of sheet. And this section right here melted on these hammers. So this is the only one that is left that I can still use because they cracked apart after they started melting. So always using wood for smithing hammers. Now, if I was using a claw hammer, I mean, maybe I might use a fiberglass handle. They tend to use or to function a little bit better for framing, but not for forging. Add, okay. All right. So I guess I have to talk about that all again. Because ads, okay, oh, we're back up from ads. All right. So the reason that I don't use a fiberglass handle is because like this used to have 3 others in the set and they all melted and then the handles cracked off of them. So if I were making a claw hammer or like a framing hammer, I might use a fiberglass handle, but I would not for a forging hammer because the heat from the steel is going to melt it. And originally I did want to do a collab with Yankee from Yankee Axe. I wanted to make an axe and I wanted to send it to him so he could handle it for me. So I didn't have to do it because I suck at woodworking. I really hate doing it. But I'm not sure if that is something that he's going to want to do at the moment. He's been doing a lot more gardening and a lot less tool restoration. So if he's not able to do it, then maybe he can give me some advice, so I can do it myself. Yep, didn't want to spam his streamer name. That's fine. I love shouting out Yankee here on the stream. There is no, or like, I don't I know that there's like a stigma for advertising other creators and other streamers in, in the Twitch space, but as long as the streamer or the content creator is relevant to what we're talking about, I don't have an issue with that. So yeah, because I mean, other people's success does not detract from my success, and Yankee has helped me so much, as has Kiri and many other creators in the makers and crafters space. So yeah, you know, Yankee is awesome. My current main hammer is a cheap Menards cross peen with a fiberglass handle. Looking forward to replacing it once I make a hammer drift. Yeah, I mean, you start with what you have, right? If all you have access to is a cross peen with a fiberglass handle, use it, you know? I will suggest to be a little bit on the careful side, because if you are forging with it and it does break, the fiberglass, like the fibers can get really, they shatter, and it's not pleasant picking those up and cleaning them. But if that's what you have, that's what you have. You can always upgrade later. It is always, better to get started with what you have access to, you know? I have a Harbor Freight claw hammer, but all I do is put up pictures in the apartment. Yeah, I wouldn't start blacksmithing with a claw hammer, and the reason I wouldn't do that is because you want a hammer to bounce back at you, right? So this guy, when I hammer, I like it to bounce back into my hand, so that reduces the amount of effort that it takes to pick up this 3-pound hammer, and it takes a lot less stamina. So I can forge for a lot longer when I have a bouncy hammer and a bouncy anvil. So I do not recommend having a bouncy claw hammer, because you can really injure yourself if you're not in control of that bounce. I started using the straight cross peen that I ground out of a Harbor Freight sledgehammer, but it's heavier, so I use it when I start forging. That makes sense. I live vicariously through you guys doing blacksmithing. My apartment manager would get mad at me if I set up a forge. Yeah, that is the case. I live in the United States in the Midwest, like within an hour of St. Louis, Missouri. And a lot of the area around here is governed by neighborhood associations. And so it's very difficult to kind of find an area where people aren't going to be like nosing into your stuff and telling you what you can and can't do on your property. So this house and this shop is not within a neighborhood association. But yeah, I mean, you gotta abide by the rules around your property, or your house, and your local and federal government. So look that up before you start blacksmithing. Make sure that you're not doing anything that is against your local laws or bylaws. Los Angeles here, they're kind of scared of fires at the moment. Oh, definitely. Yeah, Los Angeles is a high fire risk, especially right now in the summer, when everything is all dry. Definitely don't want to do be the one that starts the wildfires. All right, let's do some more fullering. All right, and we're getting some really good coloring in there. We're definitely getting a little bit of pudging around here, so we'll have to use or to smash that down as best as possible. But it is definitely starting to look like a hammer. I'm pretty happy with that. The coloring isn't too terribly off. There's a little bit, let me pick this guy up a little bit easier. Looks better. There we go. So it's a little bit skinnier on this part of the face, but I think that it'll be all right. We should be able to fix that a little bit, especially with the grinder. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this guy so far. I also want to address the cheeks of this guy a little bit. You can kind of see there's some jaggy edges. I want to address that a little bit, kind of fix that. All right, we're gonna touch these tongues again. So yeah, I think it's actually turning out better than I anticipated. I'm pretty excited. So I'm starting to think that I'd like to make a couple new sets of tongs to help us hold some of these pieces of steel. This guy, we end up, like the piece of steel ends up spinning in these guys quite a lot. So I think I have a couple of ideas that I'd like to attempt. That might make it a little bit easier to grab a hold of the pieces of steel. Now, I think that the main issue with these tongs is that the tips of them are really, really tiny. And so I don't get a lot of surface area pressure when I'm holding on to the piece of steel. So I'm starting to think that maybe I want the full diameter of the round stock to be holding onto the piece of steel. With that amount of friction, it shouldn't spin quite as frequently. So that is an idea for a project after this piece after this hammer. And then I'm actually starting to like these tongs for holding on to the cross peen section of the hammer. They seem to be doing pretty darn well. But these guys are horseshoe tongs, and there's a little crack right here. So I think maybe I need to make another set of these eventually. So I don't think that I'm going to make more than one set of tongs between this project and the next project, but I might make another set of like these hold down tongs before we go into our next project, just so that it makes it a little bit easier to hold on to the pieces of steel. So after that project, I think what we're going to do is work on a axe eye punch. So similar to our hammer eye drift, same idea, but instead of having a oval hole that it punches, we're going to do a teardrop hole. And that helps when forming the axe, so that you can kind of get really nice straight axe blows, so that you're not you're not accidentally tilting the axe when it comes down to, or when it comes down into the wood. So it makes it a lot easier to get that wedge motion into the piece of wood to split it properly. Call them marriage tongs to have, or to have and to hold. I mean, that's a good name, actually. So yeah, like I said, these guys, the steel twists very badly in these guys, and so I definitely want to figure out a better way to do that. I do like that they open quite wide, because a lot of the pieces of steel that I'm using for these for these hammers are really big. And the next piece of steel that I'm going to be using for these hammers and axes is this guy right here. And so you can kind of see that, my fingers don't even touch my thumb when I'm holding this. It's got a really big girth. So I need the tongs to be able to hold this guy. So we're not going to use the whole thing. We're going to be cutting it in pieces. But this is the next piece of steel that we're going to be using for a hammer. It's kind of a rusty piece of steel, so I got some rust all over my hands that I'm trying to get rid of so that I don't mess up my laptop. All right. So we are going to do another heat, I think. Or we're going to drop our piece of steel, one or the other. There we go. Much more better. All right. Or we're going to drop our piece of steel again. Woo. Put that there. Pick that guy up. Goodness gracious. Losing all my heat to dropping it. All right. We're going to take a look at this again. Actually pretty happy with that fuller. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to kind of straighten that out. You can kind of see that it's a little bit bowed. So we're going to start working on the sides and the face. Probably hammer or use the anvil, kind of fix that up, clean it up, make it a little bit more pretty. So we're going to heat this back up again. Drop forge. It is definitely drop forge. Does this handle operating in industrial-esque press mean These local H&S bylaws you have there, meet the bylaws I have here. No, they definitely are not OSHA standards. However, you know, I've been doing this for a few years, so I kind of have an idea of what I can and can't get away with. And the other thing is that, I definitely am not going to, sue myself if I injure myself, because this is my shop and, it's my house. So it's just kind of, I'm not suing myself. Generally, OSHA standards do not apply to home workshops. They are not part of a business with employees. However, if a home workshop is used for business operations with employees, OSHA regulations may apply to the employer's responsibility for employee safety in that space. OSHA only matters if I have employees. Well, technically, I am my own employee. But yeah, I do not have employees other than myself. For the actual forging parts of this. So, I do try to be as safe as possible. And I am educated on what I am doing. I do think about, the dangers of things. And I mean, it's kind of one of those do as I say, not as I do things. But yeah, it's a home shop. I built this guy all by my, I did have some internet plans that I used to make it, but I modified them greatly so that they would function the way I needed them to. So I don't know. There are a lot of better presses out there that you could, model a press after. Um, there's the log splitter one that would be a better one for actual use. Although I'm not sure that one would be OSHA compliant either. The only thing that applies for home workshops is the Darwin Awards. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This is my home workshop. So, I mean, like I said, I do try to be as safe as I possibly can, and I am safety conscious. But if I were, if safety was the first thing on my mind every single moment of every single day, I would not get anything done. So it's kind of that balance of, being safe, but also getting work done. Yeah. I don't know why I have this guy here. I mean, I probably will use it. Um, so this is my hammer eye drift. Seems to be working pretty well for the job. This will hold the hole open for like the hammer eye hole. While we're working with it, I don't know if I'm going to need it or not. I probably will use it just because it's a lot more secure of a handle than the tongs are, but I'm not sure that I can get the angles that I want with it. So, like I said, I really want to kind of straighten out the faces of this particular hammer face. But I'm not entirely sure how I want to go about it. So there might be a couple heats where I'm just sort of like looking at the piece and I'm not really like doing any hard forging on it because I just haven't figured out what I want to do with it yet. I don't need PPE. I have accidental deaths and or death and dismemberment insurance. See, now that's not a good idea. I definitely use PPE. I mean, I've got my safety glasses, my sound canceling headphones. I do use a welding apron. And every time I do grinding or any significant like cutting or anything like that, I will also use a dust mask to save my lungs. I mean, your eyes, ears, and lungs are the only ones you have, you know? It is very hard to replace them. So, you know, be safety conscious. Do the things that, you know, that are a good idea to do, I guess. Oh, I meant me, not you. I mean, you know, I still would rather, you know, you use PPE as well, you know? I will always say use PPE. Personal protection equipment. All right. So, I'm going to kind of fiddle with this piece of steel. We're going to see if we can't forge with it or on the anvil. I have the other camera going, but I don't know that I turned it on to record. No, I didn't. Okay. But I think I'm actually, all right. I think I'm going to do this. Yeah, that'll work. I'm not sure how much work that we're going to get this heat, but we're going to do our best. I'm going to kind of see what we can do and what we can't do. Move that out of the way. This is a little bit on the cooler side. It looks like. Move that over there as well. Ah! Nope, it's not going to want to go that direction. So, we can go that direction and we can flip it 180 degrees upside down, or we can drop it, I guess. That works too. So I think the play is probably to use this guy as a nice handhold. Kind of like so. Okay, so we've kind of flattened out these edges a little bit. And that's kind of what the goal was for that heat. I definitely think that we need to take these sides or these fullers and make them a little bit deeper. Same with the fullers on this side. So we're going to go a little bit deeper on our next heat. Not too bad though. Could you weld on a handle and just grind it off when you're done? I could. I could. And there is something to be said about that being easier. But I'm trying to do this the way that I see a lot of other blacksmiths do that, and they all have the correct tools to do this and the know-how, and they've been doing it for many, many years. So I'm kind of watching YouTube videos and kind of trying to imitate them, but because they're not here to like, tell me what I'm doing right and wrong, I am going to make a lot of mistakes doing that. So I'm kind of learning by screwing stuff up. And I do that a lot overall. So I'm deliberately screwing up and experimenting and seeing what I can and can't do. And that's the goal. The whole goal of this project is just to kind of see what I can and can't do. How is a piece of evenly heated metal move better in one direction than another? Mostly because there are differences in the amount of time that that it takes me to transfer a piece of steel to the press. It is a lot easier for me to hold it with these tongs in one direction than it is in the other direction. So I'm just kind of struggling a little bit more with the opposite direction. And so it's not as hot when I am squishing it in the press. So we are getting another ad. And so, once that ad is done, I will check on the steel. It's still a little bit on the colder side, so it's probably not going to be ready yet. Wow, yep, make some good tongs then. Yeah, I definitely need another set of tongs. Something that's going to make it easier for me to pick things up with. And it's just, I'm having a lot of trouble with my tongs today. I've also had a lot of trouble with the brand new dies that I made. I kind of put them together in a way that I knew that maybe they would work, but they're not working, or in the beginning, they weren't working as well as I wanted them to because I just didn't have them secured to the frame of the press as well as I should have. And so, it takes a little bit of time and adjustment. And I'm learning as I go. Have you ever tried tong blanks from Ken's Custom Iron? No, I have never actually used tong blanks. I tend to make my own tongs from scratch. I know that there are tong blanks available, and a lot of people have them. They work beautifully. A lot of people I know rave by them, but I've just never had them. Mostly because I only have so much budget for pieces of steel and tools and things. And I also have this habit of like making a set of tongs very short notice because I need them for a specific project. Back from ads. Yeah, so a lot of my friends do rave about ready tongs or like the instant tongs where you just heat them up, twist out the tong blank section and, rivet them together. People rave about them, I will recommend them if that's how you want to go, and they are relatively cheap. I just have a tendency to need tongs at short notice, and because I need them when I need them, I don't think to order them, so I just end up making them. And maybe it would be easier if I just ordered tong blanks, but it is what it is. I feel like I need to learn to make better tongs, and because learning to or repeatedly making the same thing over and over is only going to make you a better blacksmith. It's going to help you practice, and you're going to get faster at it. So, All right, let's take a look at this piece of steel. It's a little bit on the cold side, but a couple more minutes and it should be good to go. I am gonna take it back to the face of the anvil. I'm gonna try and look at fixing the tail end a little bit. The cross peen section of the hammer has a weird divot in it, and I want to see if I can't fix that a little bit. It should also smooth out the large face of the hammer as well. So I'm gonna take a look and see what I can do, cleaning it up a little bit, and then we'll go back over to the press. Oh, there's two wattas. All right, and I flipped that piece of steel in the fire because right now the face of the hammer is hotter than the cross peen face of the hammer. Or I guess the rounded face of the hammer. Need to grab some more water. Again, once I grab some more water, we should have plenty of heat on that tail end. And then, like I said, I'm going to kind of hammer that back a little bit. And there is a bit of fish lipping there. And I've done a little bit of this already, but there's still a little dip in there. All right. Move these over here. I'm going to use these 3 tools. OBS is, or I think my capture card's getting a little bit on the warm side. So it's starting to delay changing cameras. So I apologize for that. Like I said, it is ridiculously hot today here in the St. Louis area. Alrighty. It's a little bit better. So we're going to go back to the press and we're going to use those fuller dies again on this guy, or on the sides. And we'll see what we can do. We'll be using the combo dies here pretty quick too. I just want to clean this up a little bit. All right. So I'm going to move this camera over here. Focus that right up and we're good to go. All right. I'm actually pretty happy with how the drift is working. I think that the hole in the hammer though, it's a little bit off center. So I think it's actually a little bit on the diagonal side. Because when we punched that hole, we didn't have the punch straight up and down the entire time. So there is a little bit of variance and wobbling. Instead of having that the hole go straight down, I think it's kind of diagonal a little bit. Gonna kind of do the best I can to kind of clean that up in a little bit. But yeah, we're gonna keep on keeping on and we're gonna learn what we can. So for those of you who weren't around in the beginning of the stream, on Saturday, my partner and I went van shopping because we were unable to get the van that we had wanted. So we had to start from scratch looking at different new vans. We found a Chevy Express cargo van. And so we put a down payment on it, and they are fixing the back tail light. There are 3 tail lights on the vehicle, and the top one fell off while they were bringing it to us to test drive. So they told us that if we wanted to purchase it, that they would put the tail light back on free of charge. So that's where it's at right now. So we picked that up on Wednesday night after my partner gets home from work, and we get to bring it home. And yeah, I'll show it to you guys as best I can. We'll see if I can't. I don't think I will give you guys kind of a tour of it, but it might just be like a video that we watch, similar to the opening and the ending videos, because I don't think that I can bring because like the HDMI cables for my cameras are a little bit on the short side. So I'll have to make a video for you guys so that I can show you what it looks like. You're gonna turn it into a mobile forge and gonna be a wandering gypsy blacksmith. A wandering gypsy blacksmith. I mean, I am going to have I'm going to put together a mobile forging like station, I guess, that we can kind of keep in there with like a small anvil and some hammers, and I'll probably put the mailbox in there. So, but yeah, it's going to be half camper, half forging van. And did I reveal how much we paid for it? I don't know if I did. Maybe. But I mean, I don't know that I want to, or if I haven't already, I don't know that I want to reveal it. It was a pretty decent deal, though. It has 110,000 miles on it. You do not have to, of course. Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty decent deal for the year and mileage. And we looked at the Carfax and similar vans are a little it's in line with similar vans of the same make, model, year, and mileage. So I mean, it wasn't like an incredible deal, but you know, it was about what it should have been. So I'm pretty happy with it. It's gonna be fun. There's a few things that I need to fix around it. There is a hole like where there's like a rip in the floor, so I'm gonna have to weld that back together. And there's a couple places where there's some rust, and I'll have to, you know, grind down the rust and fix that up. But overall, it's pretty decent. I'm really looking forward to building it out. All right. Let's do another heat. I think I did that right. Yeah, I did. Okay. If the deal is too incredibly incredible, maybe it is not really or not for real after all. Yeah. I mean, there were a few vans that were incredibly incredible deals, but we just liked this one a little bit better. It's a little bit bigger than another one that we looked at. It look pretty good. Has much more heavily on this side than the other, because we've got a decent amount of fullering on the vertical, but the horizontal, I'd like to do a little bit more with that. So we're gonna heat this back up and we're gonna do some more work. I'm almost happy with it. Almost. What matters is, does the AC work? The AC does work. It does, it does. We did actually look at another of the same model of van. And the AC kicked in only, or it only kicked in halfway through our test drive. So and that one also smelled like gas. So we think that the gas tank was leaking, and we're like, no. That one was dirt cheap though. That one was dirt cheap. We decided that we did not want to deal with a leaky gas tank and a shoddy air conditioner. It was probably dirt cheap for a reason. It definitely was. It also had a lot of rust on it. It did have a lift gate on it though. That was kind of cool. So it had this like a little I don't know, a ramp, I guess, And so it had like a remote control, and you could bring it down and roll up a card on it and then lift the card into it. And that would have been cool to play with, but it took up a lot of space. And we didn't need it as much as we needed, you know, a more reliable vehicle that we thought might actually get a few more miles out of. So yeah, it would have been cool to have a lift gate though. Really cool. Um, so yeah, like I said, I will try and make a video on Wednesday when we bring it home. Probably more like Thursday. I probably won't. I'll try and get it edited as much as possible. Um, but I am actually I okay. So I can't do it on Thursday because I have my siblings. I have two siblings, and they're coming to visit me on Thursday. So I'll be a little bit busy. Why do these fullers on the hammer matter? Sure, on a sword to lighten, but a hammer aerodynamics maybe. The reason that I'm putting them on there is just because that I think they look pretty. And I know that just sounds really weird, but I think they look pretty, and the Brian Brazil pattern for hammers includes them. So I guess I'm going at, or I'm using the Brian Brazil like method, or as close to that method as I am capable of doing here at this shop. And so I mean, it's a different pattern. It just makes it look prettier. I also think that it kind of modifies the balance of the hammer a little bit more. Um, but I'm not entirely sure on that. It's just more of a guess. But it's an educated guess. Oh no, not pretty, the horror. I will call it an experiment. Yeah, I mean, why forge something if I can't at least attempt to make it pretty if I want to, you know? I mean, there's a whole function versus form debate, you know? Do you want your piece to be more pretty, or do you want it to be more functional? And sometimes pretty is more important than will it function. So, you know, I want this guy to be pretty. That is my goal. I think it squishes the face out a bit more depending on how deep the fuller is. Yeah, it kind of moves it away from the center, and I do think that it adjusts the weight distribution a little bit. But I also am very much expecting for it to not work very well for me because this is my first hammer. And I'm very much expecting this hammer to not be the best hammer ever because it's my first one. You gotta start by sucking, you know? All right. We're gonna work a little bit more on this fuller. A signature of you. I have no further comment. Pretty the piece though. I hope it makes it prettier. That is my goal. All right, we're gonna do this side. Let's bring it on. We get hot again. Hot again. Now I'm gonna flip this 180 degrees because I'm really starting to focus on this side. Or I'm really wanting to focus on this side of it. All right, let's take this out and take a look. What's it look like? Is it pretty like I want it to be, or is it, not as good? Hey, it's starting to work. Look at that. We've got some good colors going there. I want to clean up this side here, this side, and then from there, I think I'm all right. We've got some good colors. So we're going to do this side one more time. And then I'm going to flip it around and work a little bit more on the cross team section. We're getting really close to being done with this, guys. I have a bit of trouble clearly understanding you at the press. Probably because the press is incredibly loud and the noise suppression is working in overtime. So that's probably what it is. I will try not to speak as much at the press if you guys are having trouble hearing me. So yeah, I want to do one more pass on the vertical fullers that we've created to kind of clean them up just a little bit. And then I want to flip it around and start working a little bit more on the cross piece. Because I kind of was trying to hammer back the fish lips, I've also widened that piece up and I want a much skinnier radius. So we're going to use these fullering dies to kind of squish that down a little bit further. It should, in theory, make it a little, or it should work pretty well. And then we'll bring it back to the face of the anvil to kind of clean that up and flatten it down. Now we've reached 2 hours in the stream, so I'll probably work for a little bit longer. We will definitely get to start working on the cross peen again. But I don't know if we'll finish the cross peen today. Because, it's starting to get a little bit on the late side. We've got some time left, but, not all the time. But I am actually pretty happy with the fullering that we've done. I think it's going to look pretty nice. And this hammer is going to, or like the design of this hammer is going to be a rounded cross peen hammer. So that front face is going to be a lot more rounded than like this face or the face of this hammer. This hammer has kind of a flat face. So it doesn't quite forge, or it's not going to forge as deeply as what I want for this hammer. I want a nice rounded face. All right. Oh, my card is full. A wide stuff. Oh, I know why it's full, because I totally forgot to delete the last stuff. Sadness. I hate when I do that. I forget to delete my last clips and then it fills up my memory card. All right, we're good to go. Let's do another heat. All right. We're gonna push this 180 degrees. Back in the fire, but we're gonna do it the other way. I accidentally dropped it on the ground again. I do that way too often. All right, here we go. Oh, looks like we're on ad time. So you guys probably didn't even see me drop that. Exciting, exciting. I'm actually pretty happy with this guy. All right. So like I said, I'm going to flip this around. We're going to work a little bit more on the cross peen section of this hammer. And then once I'm happy with the cross peen section, we are going to go back in and chamfer all of the corners on this. This is a very square hammer. And I kind of want to turn it from a square into an octagon on every face except for on that cross peen section. That I don't mind having more square edges on it. We will kind of bring those down so they're a little bit more rounded, but I don't necessarily want an octagonal tail on my cross peen hammer. So it should be interesting. We should get very close, if not finished, on Wednesday. I'm really excited about that. Then we can start a new project. But yeah. And then when I get the hammerhead all nice and grinded, I will show you guys. I also need to make a handle for it. Hey, 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 Ray, run away. In other fear for I, Blue City Goat Farmer, and here for me also, I am a retired sniper. Yeah. Welcome in, Bluesy. Your intro is always entertaining. Typos. That's all right. It's still an entertaining intro. I read a little bit more than I normally do because you personalized it this time. So that was, I like that. I feel special. I try. Yeah. So we are continuing to work on our hammer. Right now we have flipped it around to the cross peen section. I want to thin out the cross peen a little bit. It's kind of got a really thick cross right now. And so I want to thin it out. And then from there, we're going to kind of chamfer all of the edges, take off all of the corners. Because right now it's a very square top profile, I guess. And I want to get rid of all of the corners in the areas that I don't need them. So we're going to keep on keeping on and see where it lands us at the end of today's stream. All right, we've got plenty of heat. We're going to try this again. Let's do this, guys. Let's do this. If I can get this out of here, that is. There we go. All right, let's see. That's fine. You are special. I am tired, so I am about to crawl into bed, but I thought I'd say hi. Well, hi, Lucy. Welcome to the stream. For as long as you can, you decide to stay. I need to move that piece of steel because it's weirdly in there. It's not situated exactly the way we need it to be. We'll put that back in there like so. We're good to go. Woo, I'm starting to get real warm now. We're going to do a couple more heats on this piece, and then we'll probably end for the day. Ourselves, because, it's starting to get a little bit on the late side. I got a few other things that I got to do. after I'm finished streaming in the shop. And, you know, also got to get some dinner. Sleep well. And we'll see you later. Goodness gracious, I've already finished my third one. Well, that's all right. But yeah, I'm really liking this fullering tool, or like the fullering guys. I think they're working pretty well. They are starting to see a little bit of movement. I made them out of mild steel, the same kind of steel that I normally use for forging. So it's not like they're hardened or anything. So they are seeing a little bit of movement. That I don't think that's a terrible something that I don't think that's a terrible thing. But it also means that they're not going to last quite as long as if I were to have used tool steel or a harder steel, I guess. But I also don't have to worry about how they sit on, or how the hot piece of steel sits on them and detempers them either. So it's kind of a plus and minus. We can also change them so that more of the pressure is going to the, or more of the pressure is going to the bottom die than the top die. It also heats more. So I could flip those dies, put the bottom one on the top and the top one on the bottom, and that might even out the wear a little bit. I'm going to grab a Gatorade real fast. We've already gone through 3 water, so I need to replenish my salt. I will be right back. Ooh, there's a red in here. I like red Gatorade so much more than blue Gatorade. Gatorade reminds me of being sick. Red less so. All right. Looks like we've got plenty of heat, so let's do another heat. A little bit weird. Back in the heat. Okay, so we've kind of started bending the cross peen section to one side or the other. And I really want to correct that. So I think the next heat is going to come back here on the anvil. We're going to kind of flatten that out, straighten it out a little bit. Or we're going to try to anyway. I'm going to move the camera. So we're probably going to do a couple more heats on this guy. Forward a little bit. Manual focus. Always the best, you know? Alrighty. Like I said, we're probably going to do a couple more heats. So I think what I'm going to do is 2 more heats. So we'll do this next heat, and then we'll do 1 more heat, and then we will rate off. So if anybody has any ideas for who you guys want to watch after we're done here, let me know. Otherwise, I will find somebody. Thank you guys so much for your support and for joining me today. I have learned quite a bit today. And that is the goal of this project, is to learn more things, or learn things. So no rats in the workshop. No rats in the workshop right now. There was a mouse that lived in here for a while, but I think he ran off and found someplace else to live when I came back. You know, last year. It was it was a decent size one. It was like yay big, so I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a mouse. Maybe it was more of a rat. I don't know for sure, you know? All right. Are we good? All right, I think we got plenty of heat. Let's do another heat. Maybe. There we go. Yeah. I heard there is a rat in here. Probably was a red. Yeah, a red Gatorade. Darn it. That's not cool. Or good. Drop my brick. And where is my... There it is. Oh. I dropped my brick on the ground. Sorry, guys. I gotta pick it up again. Ooh, it's cracked now. Gotta be careful. Does not want to come out of here. There it goes. I think I might do this. This is probably going to be the best way to do this. Goodness gracious. Not doing so hot this time. I think I'm going to have to put the other dies on here. Or on the press. And that might help a little bit. All right. Put those over there. starting to lose a lot of heat. So I think it'll be all right if we use it this direction, like that, as opposed to this direction. But I really want to straighten that out a bit. You know what? That was a really bad idea. All right, so I'm going to put this guy back in the heat. And yeah, we'll do one more heat on it. Ooh, we're running out of propane too. Starting to run out of propane. I think we got enough propane for one more heat though. All right. I think it'll be all right. We're losing a lot of heat. All right, well, I guess I don't have enough heat for one more. I'm going to let it sit in there for a little bit and soak. Hopefully we'll get plenty, or we'll get enough heat to kind of do one more, one more thing with it. Let's try this. We'll see what we can do with it. It's probably not enough heat. I apologize. I did say we were going to do 2 more, but the propane said no. And my brick fell in or broke in half, so that means I'm going to, okay. That'll work, I guess. Okay. That's my own fault. Goodness gracious. All right, that's all I got. That's all she wrote today. Again, I can clearly hear Phil Collins sing "One More Heat." Yeah. Well, thanks for making the majority of my afternoon work fly by faster. All right. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that I helped, Okay. Well, I do have to say goodbye. So if there's anybody you'd like to raid, let me know. Otherwise, I will find a new friend or someone. So thank you so much for joining me today. I've had so much fun. And I updated the outro. So yeah. This is my favorite part of Mondays and Wednesdays. Thanks, Corwin. You also have a good evening. All right, looks like we get to find someone new. Go with Mr. Boomati. He's making some chainmail. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you guys on Wednesday.